Oh man, everybody, here we go. It's a good day. Got the day off. Before we get started, I would like to send a big thank you to all of the ladies of Northern Kansas City for holding your babies in overnight. So I didn't have to get up and deal with that. I really appreciate the night's sleep. You ladies are awesome. Appreciate it. So yeah, worked 24 hours yesterday, but it ain't shit because I slept all through the night. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. I'm super pumped about all of these balance changes that GGG's putting into the new Path of Exile patch. So I'm planning for this to end up on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube down the line, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get more videos from me and have me litter your live feed with more awesome videos. Isn't that going to be awesome? Anyway, yeah, so we're going to talk about that. In other news, I just got back from my kid's pet parade at his school because we go to a bougie private school that does things like that. It was surprisingly not a shit show, despite having like 200 people there, with, you know, most of whom brought animals. Yeah, my kid is, we have a cat who's an outdoor cat, but my kid is extremely allergic to animals, and like he pet our cat and then rubbed his eye, and just all hell broke loose because his eye swelled and he was pissed off, and it was sort of a disaster towards the end, but that's okay. He still had a good time, and that's really what matters. So, my wife's getting her hair done. I'm chilling here with an Irish coffee. Hopefully I'll catch a nice buzz as we talk about these notes. So let's just get into it. Man, it's a beautiful day. Glad I get to do this. Yeah, so as I have read through these notes, all three of them. If you missed the memo, the Balance Manifesto this time around was so large that they broke it into 3 sections and released them on 3 different days, which I personally think is a fantastic approach. What I also think is a fantastic approach is this format that GGG has used, where they said, here's the problem, here's our solution to what we're doing. And then below, they have the nitty-gritty specifics, which for this one is a shitload, but for the other things, it's not quite as extensive. So I think that is, like, super easy to digest, and it's a really, really nice way of approaching this. So GGG, if you care what I think, and if you happen to be listening to this, please do this again. I think this is a much more transparent and easy to understand way of presenting your thinking. Yeah. So with that in mind, I really like a lot of the changes that they've made. I know that the changes essentially blow up our conventional thinking about the metagame in Path of Exile, which I think is a huge plus. I think that's nothing but a benefit. Like, it forces people to make new builds and be creative and come up with new cool stuff. And again, that's awesome. I think they were kind of driving at that with the last patch, but were clearly pretty heavy-handed in their, like, destruction of the current way of playing. This is more, like, tweaking things and changing thing, like, side-grading stuff, basically. Which I think is awesome, instead of just making, you know, mana costs insane and just gutting people's current favorite gyms. Now, it seems like there might be a fair amount of gutting going on here, to be fair, but like, I think the way that they have managed the issues that they cited is very, very good. Well, with that, let's just jump right into it. And we'll do this parts 1 through 3. So I'm not going to do this in, like, excruciating detail. You can go to some of the bigger streamers to get that, but I just want to kind of hit the highlights, and frankly it would take too long to do. But talking through this stuff kind of helps me understand how these changes are going to affect the game as well. Like, saying it out loud helps. So if you have any input, please let me know. I'm not claiming to be an authority on this. I'm just kind of talking through how I feel on each of these things. So Ailment Mitigation. So clearly one of GGG's big goals with the last patch was to make it much more difficult to achieve 100% ailment mitigation. And they did so by essentially eviscerating a lot of the ascendancy nodes that granted ailment mitigation. Whether it was the Elementalist, the Raider, was it Inquisitor? One of the Templar nodes. Or Templar ascendancies. Anyway, they, as I mentioned, were pretty heavy-handed with that, and it seems that they've taken a step back, and instead of just adding those things back, they made it easier to get, like basically they made it so that if you want to invest in ailment immunity, you can do so with good success. So instead of just making it like super rare and basically impossible to get, you now have a lot of options to do it, which I think is cool. So the big change that stood out to me is the purity of elements change. This is going to be a really, really popular aura, I feel like, for builds who need that ailment immunity and can't necessarily get it easily otherwise. So now it just straight up makes you immune to ailments, which is awesome. And gives you more resistances, but it has a reservation of 50%. So if you just want to say screw it and not have to worry about elemental ailments at all, and you feel like you can swing a 50% aura reservation, that's an easy way to do it. But what I actually like more than that is the other things that they've done that allow you to mitigate ailments. So specifically, like the Brine King, this seems like kind of an auto take. I'm not sure they should have done that, frankly. The Can't Be Frozen is, to me, by far the most important elemental ailment to avoid. Though that may be different now that Ignite has changed. Ignites might be a lot more painful than they have been historically, with the way that the damage has been altered. So, you know, maybe that's something that you need to pay a little more attention to now, or will be something that you need to pay more attention to. But, you know, as it stands, Cannot Be Frozen is huge. And I personally took Soul of the Brine King pretty much always anyway for the stun lock immunity. So the fact that it also gives you Can't Be Frozen, it's like kind of a no-brainer in my mind. So I think that this might have been a bad change in the sense that it will narrow people's choices. Like it's obviously a very powerful choice and people will like it, but it will do the opposite of what they want in that it will sort of force people to take this. But that's okay. I think that's kind of a minor point, really. Like nobody really pays much attention to pantheons anyway, in my opinion, or in my experience. So you just kind of like get whatever pantheons you want and move on. But again, this will be something that pretty much everybody gets, I think. So other things, you know, they're adjusting the amounts of elemental ailment immunity on gear and putting some modifiers on here in the crafting bench. So I think all of those are really cool, that they give you some like options to sort of like personalize and make unique your character to fix the things that you need fixing. And I think that's a really good idea. So I like that overall. Soul of the Brine King, a little questionable. Flasks, they've basically like Flasks I enjoy. It looks to me like they're sort of fine-tuning their approach from the last patch. Like, where last patch they just came in with, you know, a buzzsaw and just eviscerated Flasks. And now they're sort of finding the problems with that approach and moving towards what's going to be a workable long-term solution. So, as most people immediately noted, and I'm not sure why they didn't realize this ahead of time, because it's kind of an obvious conclusion. So, the utility flasks that, you know, most people were using for some sort of protection, whether it's curse immunity. Already got a league starter ready? Hey man, what's up? Andreas, I haven't seen you in a while, dude. Thank you for coming back. So I thought I had a league starter ready, but then all of the balance changes came out, and now my mind's kind of swimming, dude. So I was thinking Deadeye with Eye of Winter and like massive chaining. That was probably my number one, and number two was a oh god, what was it? Inquisitor with well shoot, I have it here in Path of Building. I'm drawing a blank. Go with Bleedbow Gladiator. Yeah, so I really enjoyed my Bleedbow. Oh, I actually have it up here. Oh yeah, Spectral Shield Throw. That's right, Spectral Shield Throw Inquisitor. Like elemental damage, which, I don't know, with 370,000 DPS with literally nothing but a shield, seems pretty decent to me in a duel. But yeah, I sense that Spectral Shield Throw might get dialed. Yes, yeah, I think it's gonna get nerfed pretty hard. I agree with that. And especially what will get nerfed is this. Seething Fury is gonna get dialed back real freaking hard. So, you know, to be able, the 0.2 to base crit chance based on your energy shield, like, energy shield, or shields with 300 energy shield and some evasion on them are like, you know, and throughout the league were like 70 to 100 chaos. So that's 6 base crit chance. So from one jewel, and there's no way that that's gonna stand pat. So this build is tenuous at best. But with the numbers the way they currently are, this looks pretty good. So this is my distant number 2, and my Eye of Winter Deadeye was number 1. So, I think I might actually have a sample of that. Do I? No, this is just me messing around. What was this? Oh, this was for SST Raider. Got it. Yeah, obviously, I was big into SST, trying to get the elemental thing to work in a, maybe non-standard sort of way. But yeah, with the Eye of Winter Deadeye, I was looking to just go like Ricochet, maybe go here, Endless Munitions, have Focal Point for Sniper's Mark to, you know, make just projectiles go freaking everywhere, have Hydrosphere, and then have a Snake Pit Ring so everything chains twice. And that would be pretty awesome for both single target and for mapping, I believe. So we'll see. We'll see what the I'm pretty hesitant to commit to anything at this point, given how much the balance manifesto is changing things. So yeah, with the Flasks, I think that they've kind of tried to go towards a middle ground where they realize these things. So Mana Flasks and Life Flasks are kind of reactive in nature, so using them to, well, here. So using them to, like, get long-term buffs doesn't really make sense, right? Because you're not using them as a sustainable sort of buff, right? It's like a panic button, oh shit, I'm dying, or I have no mana. And the opposite is true for the utility flasks, which is what people were getting their ailment immunity or their curse immunity or bleeding removal or whatever on. So instead of having to use something that you want to have good uptime reactively, they're allowing you to, they're sort of changing things so that you don't necessarily have to, like, you know, waste your utility flasks to get rid of your bleeds or whatever, which I think is good. And the specifics here, so. Oh yeah, another thing that I think was really cool, and I can't remember if they specifically, if this was like one of the points that they made, but the fact that they're adding different tiers of mods on flasks, I think is really cool, because that makes finding flasks later in the game actually exciting. And, you know, it's worth picking those up instead of just getting some random ass flask and, like, you know, using alterations on it until it pops up with what you want. And, you know, like any eye level of flask will do pretty much. So I think it's cool that they're changing that. Because, you know, as it is, late game flasks are just sort of like ground trash, basically. Belts are the item slot intended to... I think I missed this. More tiers of flask modifiers on belts. That's kind of cool. I like that. I like that idea. So you can sort of, you know, be a non-Pathfinder flask finder, right? Not too bad. So I like this as well. So like we were talking about earlier, one of GGG's goals is to avoid things that are like universal auto use, right? So instant life flasks are something that like every single build wants. So I think it's nice that they're eliminating that and changing life recovery, how it works. So you can actually kind of get a little more creative with your life flask usage. So that's, this is a positive change in my opinion. This will also, by the way, be really, really good for petrified blood builds. So look for that to be, like, low life petrified blood to be a popular choice. That is something on my radar. As far as, so we were talking league starters. A low life bleed gladiator, definitely on that list for sure. Despite the block changes, which we will talk about in a little bit. So I think that's pretty much it from this one. Let's go to round 2. So the you know, obviously this was mostly about flasks, and that's, you know, I think those changes are positive overall. So this is the second balance manifesto, or second part of it. This one is about defenses. This is probably the one that's generated the most chatter, as far as I can tell. And it's not universally positive. Lots of people have looked into exactly what all of the changes will mean for our builds. But spoiler alert, probably the biggest change that they're doing is eliminating dodge, which, as you can see here, so the problem, dodge and blind are more mitigation for fewer passive points than any other defense type, clearly, right? So just about every build that's on this side of the passive tree, including a lot that aren't, go over here. You get aggro and phase aggro, because it's, you know, basically like 30% damage mitigation. Sorry, I have a fruit fly that's like, keeps landing on my nose, it's driving me nuts. Anyway, the beauty of live media, right? As discussed, this is sort of going a long way towards GGG, like anti-streamlining builds. So they're making people not do this, right? They're making you not have to come over to this part of the tree, because this is such a powerful defensive layer for 5 points. You know, you're basically, like I said, there's, you know, 40% attack damage decrease and 30% less spell damage just immediately for 5 points, and that's insane, which is why everybody gets it. So now they are changing that. So here, armor, they're also trying to fix armor. We'll get back to this dodge thing in a little bit. So armor, as most people have played the game probably know, is not super useful unless you invest heavily into it. And even then, it's kind of questionable for bigger hits. So that will be still true, but less so. So they've altered the formula basically so that it's more effective. It's more effective at decreasing damage, which is good. And I think that's really all that it needed, pretty much. So I think that, you know, you'll see a lot more armor-based builds. Juggernauts, Gladiators, Champions, all very happy about this. Chieftains too, probably. And maybe even Templars. Actually, it sounds like they're giving Templars some like armor and energy shield nodes that'll allow you like some reason to synergize those two things. I think that's a great idea. So yeah, armor change, positive, love it. So here's the interesting thing. So people kind of shat on evasion previously, right? So this is the evasion part, and this is why, because evasion is just against attacks. So, well, as it stands, evasion is just against attacks. So we have this spell suppression thing, which lets you take half spell damage. So that's a huge, huge benefit to being evasive. So, basically you can stack this up to 100% chance. So you have like, you know, X% chance to take half spell damage. So this is sort of like half-assed wonky dodge, basically. That's much less straightforward. But, this is kind of cool. So elusive is not different, right? So it's still functionally dodge, but it's, what I think is neat about this is that it's another layer. So they didn't entirely get rid of that extra layer of defense that dodge provides, because this is precedent for that, right? So potentially there will be other things that do this. The whole, like, straight-up damage avoidance, you know, that's what they said, chance to avoid damage from hits, which, you know, like, maybe that sort of points to the notion that they don't necessarily want to eliminate dodge entirely, but to have, like, the verbiage is really confusing, right? So, like, evasion and dodge being totally different things is sort of one of those Path of Exile-isms that you just sort of, like, have to have a PhD in the terminology for to understand that, like, when you're evading something, you're not dodging it, and vice versa. Even though, you know, for us English speakers, that's sort of tough to wrap your head around. But, you know, it's like nearby. Nearby means, like, 30 different things, literally. Oh my god. Ah, this fly is killing me. I think that's a logistically good choice. It makes things less confusing for players. And one thing that I have to remember is, like, I'm a pretty casual player, I think. And, you know, I understand these things, but most people are even more casual than I am. And so things like, you know, the evade versus dodge thing are very confusing. So to eliminate that is good, but still have the mechanic is good. So they're not like cheapening the game or anything, but they're making it easier to understand. And I think that's a big plus. So this is kind of cool. The way that they have redesigned the acro and phase acro is awesome. So yeah, phase acro does not exist, and it's all just acrobatics. It's a keystone. So basically it's just avoiding spells, because there's not really any way to do that. You know, again, like, as they mentioned up here, evasion provides no defense against spells, and the best you can do is take half their damage. And, you know, if you're already taking, you know, 20,000 damage, well, taking 10,000 damage doesn't really do you much good, right? You're still super mega one-shot. But, you know, that's still a reasonable amount of defense, and will prevent a fair amount of one-shots. You know, I'm not trying to say that. So here, they've introduced a lot of mechanics that scale them too efficiently, armor and evasion, that is, because they basically weren't effective previously, right? So now they're basically making it make more sense, more or less. So they've adjusted some items and, you know, basically accounted for the fact that evasion and armor are more useful. The Hellfather, oh man, dude, thank you for the raid. What's up, brother? Appreciate that. How are you guys doing? We're just talking about the new Path of Exile patch changes coming up. I think the patch is next Friday, right? So welcome everybody. Thank you for hanging in. Good to see you guys. So yeah, this is a little on the technical side right at the moment, but basically they're making we're talking about how they're making defenses in the game more useful, because it's long been a discussion about how the game is, like, too weighted towards people getting one shot. And, you know, so, like, your build is fine, and then all of a sudden you're dead. And so they're sort of trying to smooth that experience out. So, they're making, like, the basic defensive mechanics, basically more useful. So, I am excited about it. So, the other problem with armor, it's tough to get elemental resistances, right? So they're fixing that. So they're basically just adding more elemental resistance stuff on the left side of the tree. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Passive Exile, this is the passives tree. It is ridiculous. And it's sort of arranged with, like, so this is a Marauder, it's like a Barbarian. This is Templar, it's like, you know, physical and magic, and this is magic and evasion, this is straight up evasion, this is strength and evasion. So it's just like a wheel. And over on this side, where all the armor and physical stuff is, there's not a whole lot of elemental resistance, so they're going to change that. Basically to, like, they're, as we have mentioned multiple times so far, the goal of games, or Grinding Gear Games, which is the studio that makes Path of Exile, their goal is to, like, make more builds accessible and viable. And so they're trying to prevent people from getting certain points on this tree that are sort of, like, universal. And of course that's going to happen no matter what they do. Like, there will always be some nodes on here that are better than others. But we were talking about earlier that this cluster here is pretty much universally gotten by any character on, like, this half of the tree. This, like, 2/3 of the tree. And even some over here, they're so powerful that they make the trip over here if they, you know, can figure out a reason that makes sense. Because this just provides so much defense for these 5 points that it's kind of hard to justify not doing it. And again, they're trying to get away from that. In keeping with the armor and evasion changes, they're also screwing with energy shield a fair bit. So this is kind of surprising to me, based on the fact that they did this before, and everybody and their brother made energy shield characters. I think this was Betrayal, maybe? I can't remember exactly which patch it was, but, like, every freaking person was low life with energy shield or chaos inoculation, just because energy shield was so strong. And I think it's still a fairly strong option even without these buffs. So what they're doing is making energy shield on bases 20% higher, which is a fuckload. And then sort of adjusting some of the buffs and mods and stuff that affect your energy shield. So the energy from not Cluster Jewel, I'm really surprised it took this long for them to decrease that. I think plus 60 is going to make it so that nobody ever uses it. I think that's too heavy-handed. But 100 was again, sort of a no-brainer. There's the, like, really, if you're using an energy shield Cluster Jewel, the only thing that would even remotely be an alternative is the one that provides energy shield based on your mana. And I want to figure out what that is, because I am forgetting, and I like to know these things. Let's see. Will Shaper, that's the one I'm talking about. 5% of mana is extra energy shield. So if 5% of mana was more than 100, now more than 60, and you had an interest in energy shield, this was, like, super awesome, right? So you'd have to have, what, 2,000 mana for that to be useful? And so if you have Archmage, if you're, like, a low-life Archmage setup, which I have done before, and it's freaking awesome, this is a really, really, really strong node. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't address that, even though that's sort of like a, you know, niche thing. Like, this is still going to be super strong. And now it's way, way, way stronger than anything else comparable. Right, so now you only need, what is, so 1,200 mana? If you have more than 1,200 mana, this is your best option. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. I think we might see a predominance of energy shield characters, and that goes double for because of some of the things that they talked about down here, and we'll get to that in a second. So energy shield with leech and regeneration rather than embracing its recharge mechanic. This I'm kind of lukewarm on, honestly. I feel like they sort of nuked ways for you to like regenerate energy shield actively. I don't know that was a great plan. And they're like sort of forcing you to rely on its natural regeneration. I mean, you can still leech it. So I don't know. Maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking, but the fact that they're like saying, "Well, energy shield now recharges faster." Like, yeah, but most builds that have energy shield, as far as I'm aware, aren't relying on energy shield recharge. And I mean, I think that's what they think is the problem. But if you don't have a way to constantly regain energy shield, waiting for recharge is a huge bitch, even if it isn't interrupted. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. That may, if anything's going to keep energy shield from becoming like massive meta, that's it. So let's see. There was one point in here in particular that, yeah. So they've added other energy shield mods and stuff that let you have more energy shield and regenerate it faster. But again, I don't know how that's going to work out. We'll see. This, I think, is awesome. Builds wanting to invest in both evasion and energy shield rely on Ghost Dance, which is a Trickster Ascendancy node. So they're making Ghost Dance just a regular keystone. So obviously that's going to require the Trickster to get reworked, because that's like one of their key mechanics right now. So if you're curious what that is, this is Ghost Dance. So you work with like Ghost Shrouds, and then the Escape Artist is like sort of what really cements that interplay of evasion rating and energy shield. And this is like actually one of my favorite ascendancy mechanics in the game. So I am a little surprised that they took this away from Trickster, but I think it's really cool that everybody's going to have access to that now, because that opens up a whole bunch of possibilities for like Ranger and Witch especially to be like evasive and energy shield characters, which I think is really cool. There's a lot of good possibilities for that. So I would expect that Ghost Dance gets watered down quite a bit, and next league, possibly best league. I don't know, man. I have high hopes for it. I really think that a lot of these changes are like positive for the game. I think that they're going to shake things up a whole bit, a whole bunch, and allow lots of new builds that previously were kind of like janky, like niche builds that you sort of had to like force them to work, but now they're actually just, they just work. You don't have to do anything crazy. Fresh wind in the game. I agree. Yeah, I think it'll be nice. And I think it's very interesting. We'll talk about the aura changes here in a bit in the third what do you call it, section of the Balanced Manifesto, but the fact that they've sort of chopped down the most powerful builds in the game, I think, is also really cool. The teaser showed that we might get more skills. Yeah, I mean, I think they've kind of made a point to like at least add a couple new skills per patch, right? I mean, based on this Balanced Manifesto, it sounds like that is certainly not their focus, right? Like, they have put a whole lot of effort into rebalancing some of the fundamental mechanics of the game. So it wouldn't surprise me if they sort of half-assed the skills, quite frankly. One skill gem in the inventory that you didn't see before? Oh, no way. I actually did not notice that. That's really cool. Well, I certainly hope so. Because they've actually, like, in my opinion, they've done a pretty good job releasing cool new skills. I think Ultimatum was sort of a dud, but the physical damage over time skills were good. Like Reap and Exsanguinate, those were both really cool. Watch the teaser? Well, your wish is my command, sir. let's see. No, no, no. Okay, we're just gonna go to the main site. It's a green one. Okay. We'll keep an eye out for it. No. Where? What the shit? It's Scourge. The next one is called Scourge, right? Okay, we'll go to YouTube. YouTube it is. Obviously, there's lots of videos being made about this. Okay, cool, let's do this. Whoops. Music. Pause. Oh, that's loud. The blue gem. This one? Right here? Is that's not Crackling Lance? I thought that was Crackling Lance. It isn't? Okay. Well, shows what I know. Okay. Nice. Very cool. Here, let's go back to that. I like this. Of course, that's obviously like the focal point, right? But then you've got that, which is cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, at least we know there's one new skill gem of some kind. I mean, that doesn't look like a support, so. Cool. I dig it. But yeah, I'm definitely very hopeful that these changes, like, totally shake things up. Oh, that's not the one I want. Okay. So, damage over time, D. That's, you know, long been a problem, right? So you could build a gladiator with max block and crazy life regeneration and, you know, all sorts of defenses and stuff, but, like, chaos dots still eat you alive. And so being able to invest in something that prevents that is nice. I think that's a good change. And here's the armor energy shield synergy thing that I was talking about. That's long overdue in my mind. And I kind of hope that they do more armor evasion synergy as well. I'll be interested to see if they change champion at all, or like, what is it, Iron Reflexes? Oh no, Iron Reflexes is the opposite of that, right? Yeah, it converts evasion to armor. People found out they kind of went through the teaser. At the last frame, they found the guy clicked on an emblem, and the character started to glow greenish blue, like he'd be powered up. Okay. Alright. That's intense. I wonder if that's like the League mechanic or something. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to have like an armor evasion character, like where you can use both of those things. And it sounds like since those both mechanics will be more powerful with less investment, that might be possible now. Which makes champions a really good option. Mostly because of that node. 500 armor and evasion when you have Fortify? Hell yeah. And previously, like, that evasion mostly just gets wasted. But now, if you're using both defenses, then you might be good. So I think this is cool. Life Regeneration has sort of been like the ugly, redheaded stepchild of Path of Exile for basically the entire existence of the game. So that kind of changed with the changes to the Inquisitor. Is it Inquisitor? Yeah, Inquisitor, who has a Pious Path. So with the ability to regenerate life and energy shield super fast, that kind of became a popular thing to have, life regeneration. And obviously there's builds like, you know, Righteous Fire and stuff that depend on life regen, but those are very focused niche builds. So now it sounds like that might not be the case anymore. Like actually getting life recovery rate and, you know, regeneration might actually be a useful way to build your character, which I think is awesome. So that's basically another durability and survivability mechanism that you can go for. Because right now the values just are trash, even after they buffed them. A short buff after you click on the emblem, enemies come out of the shadows, you power up. Yeah, you go like Super Saiyan on them, right? Fight through hordes and hordes of enemies like Ninja Warrior style. Absolutely. That'd be super cool. It's sort of like Delirium on demand, right? Except for like you're huge. That would be pretty cool. And like if you there's like a timer or something, if you fight enough stuff, like the big boss comes out and you have, I mean, that's like pushing it way towards Delirium. But yeah, I think that'd be awesome. We'll see what it's like. The teaser should be coming out pretty soon, right? Like this whole next week is going to be patch notes and you know, all of the teaser things for the league, skill gems and blah blah blah. So yeah, looking forward to that, man. I'm actually pretty excited about this league. This is the first time probably since Harvest, actually, that I've been like truly excited for a league. Like really, really interested in the changes that they're making and looking to get more of it. I mean, I'm always excited for league start, but if GG bonds up with From Software and makes a Dark Souls league, oh god. That sounds interesting, but my skill level is nowhere near high enough to make a Dark Souls ARPG functional. I would just get my ass fried constantly. Maybe for some of us that would be enjoyable, but man, I would get burnt out pretty quick on that. Okay, so block is kind of getting screwed a little bit here in my mind. So the Soul of Cinder Quinn, Jesus. So basically you only get one portal and every hit is an insta kill. Sounds awesome. Yeah, so Gladiator Ascendancy is far more efficient for block compared to any other class. You know, I don't really see the problem with that. Like, that's their whole thing. Sounds like ultimatum. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so versatile combatant is or combatant, actually. Versatile combatant, sorry. English is hard. That's really, really good node, to say the least. I mean, basically, you can just invest in attack block, and it gives you, you know, 60% spell block or something, which makes you super durable instantly. So now it sounds like it functions similarly, but it gives you minus 25 max chance to block attack damage and spell damage. So basically, you cap out at 50% chance to block. So yeah, I mean, that's still pretty good. It's a nice defensive layer, but it's definitely not the, like, barricade that it used to be, or is currently, I guess. So this is cool. So the fact that you can actually get, like, useful amounts of block on shields now is long, long, long overdue. Because previously, shields were basically, like, you know, you get whatever block you can on them, and then, you know, if you care about blocking, you get whatever block you can, and then, like, the rest of your skill tree takes care of it. So now it'll actually kind of matter what mods, like, block mods are on your shield. And I mean, it should have been that way, you know, since time immemorial, but whatever. So now they're changing that, which I think is nothing but positive. That'll make shields a lot more interesting, and you'll have to make some extra choices, like, especially for, like, energy shield characters. Like, do you want a shitload of energy shield? Well, actually, I guess these are suffixes, so you don't necessarily have to change your goals on energy shield, but, like, you know, do you want resist? Do you want some sort of, like, life or energy shield gain on block? Or do you just want a crap load of block? So basically it just makes your shield choice is more interesting in my mind. So I don't think that this is a terrible change, but it does sort of, since the Gladiator Ascendancy is really very strong, I think it makes Arena Challenger sort of, you know, you kind of have to auto-take that. Even if you have a shield. This is much less useful. The fact that you can gain 20% more attack speed is nuts. And then that also allows you to get this. So you have Frenzy and Endurance Charge generation. I mean, it's pretty tough to justify doing this now for 50% chance to block when you can pretty much get there on your own with some extra investment on the tree. I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be a worthwhile Ascendancy node choice over those two, especially. So, we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out, but I see that sort of being a death knell for versatile combatant. Blind. So Blind was super easy to get, right? And had a gigantic defensive buff. So now they're fixing that, basically. So, that said, you have more opportunities to specialize in it. So now they just have 20% less accuracy instead of half. But they also give you an offensive component which lowers the evasion rating of monsters, which I think is really cool. So they made Blind basically a little bit more complex. And I think that's really cool. That's nice. So Flesh and Stone, blinding enemies, that goes away. Well, I guess it doesn't go away, but it's, you know, it's not the, like, auto-take that it was. The change to Tempest Shield, I'm not sure how I feel about that. So now it's a Reservation skill instead of a castable skill. I thought it was kind of cool that it used to be this weird, like, quirky skill that you had to cast really fast. And, like, the synergy with Orb of Storms is actually really cool, too. And in my mind, that might actually be one of the reasons that they removed it, because it makes Orb of Storms cast super fast. But so now it gives you lots of spell block and shock immunity, which is, you know, it's still a cool skill, but I think the fact that they, you know, totally changed it is sort of sucks. Arctic Armor stays the same. Flesh and Stone is sort of like the physical, you know, prevent reservation stuff. And Tempest Shield's immunity to shock. So they kind of made a, you know, red, blue, green version of each of those gems. So, kind of meh on that change, but neat idea. Not sure that that's how they should have gone about doing it, though. And Fortify, the struggle with Fortify continues. So now basically they just base it on your melee damage, which, okay, fair enough. Melee characters need a buff, right? They need a reason to be melee, because spells have so many advantages, you know, from not being weapon dependent to being ranged. You know, it's a nice push towards making melee viable, which is fine. So this, though, we're working a system to where every spellcaster wants to run shield charge or get Fortify at little cost. We're working to avoid a system where they do that. Like I said, they're trying to, like, anti-streamline builds, which is, I think, good. It promotes diversity. It's good stuff. Makes the meta much more interesting. All right, so that's part 2. Now here's the Kingslayer part. So, auras, curses, and LE damage over time. This is my personal favorite part of the whole Balanced Manifesto, so we'll get to that in a second. So auras basically totally changed how Reservation works. So they give you, you know, there's all this stuff. Basically, they're just making it pretty much impossible to stack aura effect, and in a lot of cases, like, totally just removing options for increased aura effect from the game, and the same thing applies to curses. Um, the mana reservation thing, I think is nice. I think it's a good change. So, actually, I meant to pull this up. Somebody on Reddit did a chart of how the mana reservation affects how many mana or how many auras you can use. I'll see if I can find that real quick. If not, I will not bother. Let's see. So the short version of the story is let's see, reservation that's, I don't think that's the one I was looking for. So basically it's a good change for people who don't stack a ton of auras, but it's going to prevent people who are like massively aura stacking from doing so. Like with more reservation efficiency, sorry about that, as it's now called, that you have less effect on... Jesus, look at all these ads. Dear God. Is this it? No. Well, okay, so basically, the... oh, here we go. This is exactly what I wanted. So, here's the old scale of reservation. So, like, reduced mana reservation scales totally linearly with, like, the mana cost of the aura, right? So, if you had, theoretically, 100 reduced mana reservation, your auras would be free. But this has a lower bound, right? So you get diminishing returns with the more reservation that you have. So this prevents people from just, like, massively stacking auras. So you can still clearly have quite a few auras, but just not as many as you used to be able to. And since this new curve actually decreases the amount of mana you need to reserve for auras more than the old way, it means that you can, like, casual, you know, less focused players can have more auras, which I think is cool. Because auras, to me, are sort of a fun, personalizable part of your character. And it's nice to be able to have, you know, 3 or 4 that you can play with. So, the easiest, like, you saw earlier that there's a, you know, sort of potentially scary-looking formula for how this works. And the easiest, like, some people see this and, like, shit themselves and run screaming. But really, it's very simple. So, the easiest way to look at this, by far, in my opinion, is that you start with a base of 100 aura efficiency. So that's like 100% of mana, or reservation efficiency, excuse me. So for every percent mana that you want to reserve, you need 1 reservation efficiency. So, like, if you want to reserve 200% of your mana, you need an extra 100% reservation efficiency from somewhere, because you start with 100 and you need another 100. If you want to reserve 130%, like, or 120%, you want to run 2 35% auras and a 50, you need 20% reservation efficiency for a total of 120, right? So 35, 35, and 50 is 120. So, like, the amount of reservation efficiency is going to equal the amount of mana percent reservation that your auras have. Easy peasy, right? That is by far the most straightforward way of understanding this. So instead of, like, having to crank through that each time, just know that. Know how that works. So, curses, I'm not really clear on why curses deserved a nerf bomb. Like, I don't know that curse bots were such a huge problem in the game. Like, that maybe they are, and I'm just sort of ignorant to it, but they essentially got the same treatment as auras, where it's much more difficult to find curse effect. And, oh, another thing that I forgot to note is that auras are now less effective on other people, like on other players. And there's a bunch of stuff that's, like, you know, changed to only specify aura effect on you. So, like, you can aura stack for yourself quite a bit better than you can for other other characters. So like party play, like Empyreans, you know, fuck everybody up and get 90 exalts per map strategy might have to be adjusted pretty substantially. But again, that's the good part, is where everybody's having to come up with new stuff, right? You can't just do the same old shit that's worked forever. Well, I mean, on the surface, at least it seems like that will be the case. So, yeah, I guess curse spots were a bigger problem than I knew. Whatever. I think that's kind of sad that they got rid of this, because I feel like curses were sort of neglected. Like, ever since they made the change to make them hexes, they've sort of been an afterthought in a lot of ways. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that. I mean, clearly GGG thinks that they're a problem, because they dropped the nuke on them as well. But, whatever. Okay, so, LE damage over time. Fuck yes. This is so cool to me. So, they're taking steps towards making these skills essentially less reliant on like other mechanics to make them work, basically. So they're more, the skills are more standalone, and they're also more diverse. So here we go. So the LE damage over time effects of cold dots, especially burning and ignite, are too dependent on elemental overload and elemental equilibrium. Well, clearly. So again, build diversity. Ignites are too dependent on ignite damage multipliers on skills. Yeah, right. So like you basically, as it stands, can't make a decent ignite character without cluster jewels, or in-game ignite character without cluster jewels. So that's totally true, right? Like you have to use a skill that gives you more ignite damage, and then you have to use all of the like the cluster jewels and the skills that give you more ignite damage, like, you know, fire damage over time multiplier and stuff, or else your character's gonna suck and you're not gonna do a lot of damage. So their answer to this is essentially like rework EO and EE, but also make ignite and cold dots way more powerful. So look at this. Player ignite now inherently deals 150% more damage. Oh my god. So ignite meta? Anyone? Like, that's huge. That is huge. So this is what I was talking about before. Like, if this also applies to monsters, then you're gonna really, really want some ignite prevention. That will be a big deal. That will be a really big problem. So these are all like gym changes and stuff that they've upped. You know, everything does a whole bunch more ignite damage. Look at this. Righteous Fire, big buff. 35% of life and energy shield is base fire damage per second. Fuck. So that's a huge buff. Huge buff to Righteous Fire. Especially when you consider the life regeneration buffs that they were talking about earlier. I mean, that's like... Righteous Fire is ready to go, guys. Ready to go. So life regen is easier to get. Like, a good amount of life regen is easier to get, so Righteous Fire is therefore easier to sustain. That is fantastic. So, I think Righteous Fire was pretty good as it was. Pretty rough for single target, but now it's actually, like, I mean, it's literally almost twice as strong as it was. This is nuts. Actually, it might even be more than twice as strong. Oh, but that's just ignite. The player, I was thinking that this was generic, like, burning damage, but based on the language they've used, that does not seem to be the case. And technically, Righteous Fire does not ignite. But it does cause burning damage! Thanks, linguistics. So, many skills that have had an ignite multiplier have had a multiplier removed. So they basically rebalanced skills. So Fireball no longer has their more damage. This I'm a little questionable on. 25% to ignite, so it has less chance to ignite, which I don't really understand why that would be necessary, because like sort of the whole point of Fireball is igniting things, right? So because of the damage changes, it's now 30% higher. Yeah, but it ignites less frequently. And I mean, I guess that ultimately probably doesn't make a huge difference, but it, you know, that extra 14% to ignite might change your build a little bit, depending on what you were planning on doing. One thing that I think was kind of sad was up in here. Where was it? Somewhere they changed Frost Bomb because of all of this to deal less damage. And I'm not really sure why. Ah, yeah, here, Frost Bomb. So now Frost Bomb deals less damage overall, so the, like, super cool Archmage Frost Bomb builds, like, probably not viable anymore, that just, like, straight up did damage. Because now it does basically, like, 50% less damage. Or, well, I guess that's, like, 30% less damage. So, that's sort of unfortunate. But, oh well. There are some other skills in here that were pretty cool. Like, they rebalanced Discharge, which I think is sad. Discharge was fun. Discharge Ignite was really, really fun. That's probably my favorite build that I've ever made, was a Discharge Ignite Elementalist. That's one of those things that I thought I was super cool for building it and, like, coming up with that. And I did it, and I got all the gear for it and stuff before it got, like, super popular. Badger released a, like, his version of that build, and everybody bought everything that had to do with Ignite characters, Discharge characters. Like, what is it, Val's Devotion? The amulet, I bought it for like 3 chaos at the beginning of the league, and it literally went to 3 exalts briefly. I was like, shit, I'm glad I got in on that. Because for me, 3x is a lot. Like, I would say my general, like, total currency for most leagues is like in the 20x range. So to have to spend 3 exalts on a pretty much like build-defining unique would have been pretty crippling. Anyway, so EO just gives more hit and ailment damage if they've crit in the last 8 seconds. I don't really understand the difference, quite frankly. Let me read the, I haven't bothered to do this. EO, there it is. If you've dealt a crit in the past 8 seconds. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's gonna really change anything. That's not gonna do a whole lot of change to the skill, in my opinion. This is a big deal. So, EE is still going to be really good, but it's not going to be the massive damage buff that it once was. It also sort of prevents this from... I mean, like, if you have exposure, you have exposure, right? So if you already have something that causes 25% exposure, then you don't really need to do this. You don't need to get EE and mess with it. Which... I don't know. I guess that's a good thing, because every single elemental build was getting these. And then, you know, of course, the, like, buffs to all of the mods you can get on all of your gear and stuff to go hand in hand with making this stuff, you know, these damage over time skills useful. So, I had a cold dot build back in, I think, Betrayal, with the energy shield, you know, uprising that I was talking about earlier, and that was another of my favorite builds. It was a ton of fun. It was a Vortex and what is it? The Frost. It's in here somewhere. Cold Snap. Vortex and Cold Snap Occultist. It was so much fun. Really cool build. Burning Arrow gets fixed. Fine. Ignite builds. They change one skill and attack-based ignites. So basically, spell ignite is still sort of fucked for single target damage, but that's okay. So we'll see if that's really a problem. I'm not sure that it will be, given the 150% more damage. Like, I think you'll probably be able to deal, like, walloping ignites to single targets, and it'll, you know, given that it's a damage over time thing, you can just, like, do it and run around for 4 seconds, and then do your skill again, run around for 4 seconds. The unfortunate thing here is I feel like the, like, fire charge up skills, like Flame Blast and, like, Incinerate and stuff, it's still aren't gonna be useful, right? Because you have to stand still for, like, a couple seconds for those to actually be useful. Divine Eye are kind of the same deal. It'll be viable, but still sort of frustrating to play, I think. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on all that? I am, like I said, I'm really excited about the damage over time thing, because that's kind of like my favorite way to play the game. I can't believe that I played a bleed character for the first time last league. I've been wanting to do that for a long ass time, but I just never got around to it. And I loved it. It was really, really fun. So yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna go for league start, given all this information. Like, cold dots sounds awesome. I was thinking maybe like a cold dot evasion energy like low life evasion energy shield occultist would be cool. Now that that's sort of a more viable thing to do, like a ghost dance occultist, how cool is that? But at the same time, ignite is the tits. So I think fireball might have gotten gutted. Like, ignite with the skill is 33% higher. Yeah, okay, but how does it compare with everything else? That's the question. So we'll see. But yeah, that, I think an ignite occultist would be cool. I mean, sorry, ignite elementalist would be cool, as it has been previously. What else? Maybe some sort of like that sort of the fact that evasion and energy shield are useful together makes me think that maybe I'll pivot a little bit on my Eye of Winter Deadeye idea and go with that, and just sort of, like, I was gonna go for crit. Surely I have a mock-up of that build somewhere. Maybe I did one here. Oh, yep, sure did. Yeah, so as you can see, I was going all around the horn to get crit for that character. So this probably won't, like, it wouldn't take a whole lot of retooling to make this a little more evasion focused and get some energy shield going on. Like, I'd probably, you know, just get these nodes, pick that up. You could go low life, which would substantially up the damage. And also, so this league, I'm gonna try to like really push end game, because that's something that I haven't done previously. I don't think I've ever fought Maven. Yeah, I've never fought Maven. Hardly ever do like Uber Elder, or you know, even any of the end game bosses. Like Shaper is occasional. Uber Elder, I don't think I've ever done. Yeah, I think I've fought Uber Elder once, but it's been a while. Just for time reasons, right? I just can't like push my characters to that level with the amount of time that I have. So I'm thinking of trying to do that. So maybe making energy shield Deadeye would be super cool, like a low life Deadeye. And that would really allow me to like get deep into that character. Cockroach Princess, what's up, dude? Thank you for joining me. I am not talking about medicine today, if you can believe that. I'm nerd balls deep into the Path of Exile patch changes that they've been announcing. This is a rare daytime stream for me, and I'm super excited about it. My nerd boner is raging. But yeah, going low life would definitely give me some in-game depth for that character. You know, ability to scale gear and stuff. So how you doing today, man? How's life? How's the continued application secondary process going? Hopefully making some strides, but it's a rough way to go. So yeah, I'm hopeful that these like, the more that I look at it, the more I kind of like this build, and I think it would transition well to an energy shield based build, because really, like, you can use this for a thread of, oh, I already have a thread of hope there. Yep. So you can use that to get those. And maybe even this. I think I'm low on strength, yeah. Get that node. Get some cold bonuses. Yeah, I like where that's going. That might be a decent fix. We'll see how the patch makes things look. Yeah, this one, like last league, I did a like predictive video. Gotten a lot better just editing. Nice. Good for you. Yeah, it's nice when you kind of like get to the point where you can reuse some of your essays and stuff too. That saves you a lot of time, or at least like make minor changes. But yeah, I made a like video predicting what builds would be you know, easy to make and useful and stuff. And contrary to, like, I caught a lot of flack, honestly. Like, a lot of people commented and were like, "No, man, you're totally wrong," because I said a bunch of stuff about Archmage, and Archmage on the surface got a massive nerf. And to be fair, it did get a massive nerf overall, because Arcane Surge got its mana regeneration potential screwed, and so, you know, it's no longer percentage based, so the regeneration that Archmage characters got was lower, and then also the percentage of mana added as damage was lowered, but since everything cost so much more mana, that was actually kind of a wash, or even actually a buff. So I'm right, you're wrong, suck it. The moral of the story. But in any event, that on the surface looked really bad, because Archmage got, like, you know, if you just look at the gem, you're like, oh my god, it got plowed under. And I recommended, like, 2 Archmage builds, which still work totally fine, and they might actually be better than they were, but lots of people were like, you're an idiot. Why did you recommend me an Archmage build? So, the point of the story is I'm going to avoid that pitfall this time, because it looks like all this shit's going to be totally different. So, I will maybe come up with some brainstorms for, you know, for builds, and then work with them, just like this. But yeah, I'm excited for how that's going to go. Oh, and you are welcome for asking, by the way. I'm always interested in that. I did so poorly during my my med school lab season. It was it's nice to see some people going through it in some sort of a functional fashion and maybe having some success, you know. Oh man. Yeah, so while we're on the topic, what else would be good? Andreas, what else have you considered, man? I know you're deep into this. So you're going with Bleed Bow. I think that's still a really, really solid option. My problem with that, though, is that the in-game scalability is not good. So it's not going to be awesome against bosses and stuff, but it's a killer starting character. You'll clearly awesome. With, you know, pretty attainable gear. But, like, your top-end damage and survivability kind of meh. I thought about doing a staff Earthquake Bleed Gladiator and going with, like, you know, some staff that has lots of block on it. I don't know if those blocking affixes are applicable to shields only, or if those will also be available on staves. Because if they are on staves, then that might be a really interesting option. Because there aren't a whole lot of suffixes, I guess. Well, so, like, attack speed is kind of minimally useful on an Earthquake build. Especially an Earthquake Bleed build. I don't know. That's not my favorite option, because slams kind of got neutered with Seismic Cry. So I'm very curious what the Trickster remake is going to look like, because, you know, basically that... I mean, they might leave Escape Artist on there, but if Ghost Dance goes away... Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. And they'll probably leave that alone. I think that's fair. More damage over time. They'll probably leave that note alone. Another thing that I had considered was an Archmage Raider. But with the changes to Tempest Shield, like, I was going to be an Orb of Storms character, just because, like, Onslaught helps with cast speed so much. But with the changes to Tempest Shield, I'm not sure that there's going to be a lightning skill that will cast fast enough to make Orb of Storms a viable end-game damage skill. If that makes sense. So, I don't know. Don't know. Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's about all I got on the patch notes. Anybody have any thoughts? I'm really looking forward to the... oh, I got a notification. What is it? Oh, it's a Badger update. Yeah, so that is my thoughts in a, what, hour-long nutshell. That's the manifesto was very, very, very long. Which I'm glad they divided that up into multiple parts so we could sort of take it piece by piece. Cool. The wheels are turning, guys. The wheels are turning. Alright, so in the meantime, clearly Path of Exile is going to be my drug of choice for the next probably month-ish or so, but I wanted to introduce you to this really cool game. So, it's a single dev game called Star Sector. And incidentally, the dev's name is Alex, so clearly he's, like all other Alexes, is super cool and intelligent and unbelievably good looking and, you know, essentially is a candidate for ruler of the world in every single imaginable facet. But seriously though, he makes a good game. So this is Star Sector. It's basically a sandbox game, and I'll show you what it's like. You are exploring a portion of a galaxy, a sector, and you can choose all sorts of stuff. So he just released a huge gameplay patch probably about 2 months ago, and the biggest... I've talked about this on stream before, but I actually wanted to show it to you. There's like this big gameplay modifying patch or mod. It's a mod that sort of like plays off the original game instead of like really altering it too much. It basically just adds a whole bunch of playability and modifies the end game a bit so that it doesn't stagnate quite the way it does in the vanilla game. Like he makes so you can build colonies in this. One of the choices you can make is colony building. And he makes, like, occasionally the AI will, like, various factions that you're at war with will come and raid your colonies. And so in the vanilla game, like, you can pretty much reach a point where you're just invincible and you just bitch slap every raid. That is not the case with this mod. The mod is, I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's Nexarelin or Nazarelin or something like that. I'll show you how it's spelled. Hold on. Well, whatever. It's Nexerelin. Really cool mod. I was playing with it a little bit, hence the name, checking it out. Very creative on my part, right? Just kind of like dicking around, seeing what I could do. This is not a game that I'm going to play, or a save that I'm going to play. But I was just kind of flying around seeing what you can do. So you can look at these places, and you can go to the bar, and there's people who, like, you know, will want you to be their mercenary or like run supplies to somewhere. Like the flashily dressed woman for a drink. She says, I know the location of a Perdition Wing blueprint, so you could go. Like, she, you know, offers to sell you information essentially, right? And then you have to like go find this blueprint for a Perdition Wing, which is like a little ship that your ships can fire out. And I'll talk about that in a second. So you can go and buy stuff. You have to get supplies and fuel and crew your ships. These are all different resources that your colonies need. Dot will become a huge buff nextly. Yeah, absolutely. Like, massive buff. Which is great, because I think it'll enable a whole bunch of builds that, at the moment, are not super viable. So here, like, the first line, Ignite does 150% more damage. I mean, hot damn, right? Like, Ignite, I felt like was in a reasonable place for, you know, everything just shy of the ultra endgame. So, and now it's going to definitely be a good option. And then also cold dots here. So all of the skills that do cold dots essentially got like a 50% damage buff or more. So Creeping Frost up from 1400 to 2200. Cold Snap from like 666 to 999 to 1000 to 15 or 1600. I mean, Vortex, same deal, right? From 787 to 1250 max damage, like huge buffs. And then also the mods that modify them are much better. Discharge explodes over 10 screens. Yeah, it does, right? So they did mention that Discharge does 55% less damage with ailments, but the as above here with the 150% more, that actually makes Ignite 60% bigger, which I thought Discharge Ignite was like kind of batshit crazy to begin with, because the radius is so huge. This is actually something like I would consider making another Discharge Igniter, because I liked my last one so much. So that might be a league starter for me. It's sort of a tough league starter because it's kind of, you know, gear dependent. Sort of tough to swing. So I might do like Fireball first and then switch into Discharge. Coming from a medical background, the phrase switch into Discharge is less than palatable for me. That's usually not a good thing to do. But, might try Discharge. Dude, I loved my Discharge Elementalist. It was so fun. I do not, actually. So I can show you my character, and Badger made a Discharge Elementalist, and I can show you his guide. But I actually sort of like mine better because it's way more realistic. What league was that? Well, you know what, screw it, I'll, just do a new build. And I'll get you the, let's see, some Discharge is normal. So this is my build. Badger's is very top end and uses some, like, pretty specific gear. So, I will share with Basebin. So that's my character. And, let's see. Why is Discharge doing no damage? It's kind of weird. Maybe I don't have, oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you can see without any and serious damage. Let's see, are there anything else? Yes. Yes. They will be chilled, they will be shocked. So, like, without any, you know, big buffs or anything, I did 850 ignite damage per second, and it was over a radius of 64. So really the only thing that's expensive is the 6th link, or no, it's not a 6th link. I had the 6th link Searing Touch, that's right. So just the Feral's Fur, that's the most expensive thing on here. I think I had a pretty decent helmet too. Yeah, the max power charges. But everything else is like pretty, you know, standard end-game stuff. Nothing super expensive. And this is also after the Ignite nerf, right? Like, this has been updated to the current tree. So this, I think this was like well over 1 million. This is like 1.5 million damage or something. Before all of the, like, numerical changes to the fire damage over time things went through. It's like all of this is way worse than it used to be. So this I would say is, like, for me, this was obviously an achievable endgame build. And like I said, my total net worth by the end of most leagues is 20x or less. So this is definitely a very doable build. Leveling into it, like I was saying, it might be a little hard. I used a chest that had like 10% chance of generating a frenzy charge when you hit to get my frenzy charges up to like bolster my damage. And I forgot how Magenta first nerf Ignite, then, like, yeah, exactly, like, what are you doing? Why would they nerf it and then, like, buff it mega hard? I mean, I think they just realized that was a mistake, basically. And they were like, oh shit, nobody's doing this anymore. So, yeah, so it's a little tough to get, like, the charge generation that you need. Vol's Devotion is a must, especially early on. But, like I said, it's a little gear dependent. So you may have to start leveling with like Fireball or Flame Blast or something else. And then once you have a little currency, you can get your all this stuff. We want Explodey Chest back, yeah. Yeah. Well, shit, with this, you don't need it. And they nerfed Barracks Respite, too, and which I obviously didn't even have. I think I had, like, Ignite Prolif or something, which is not the same thing, you'll note. For those of you who are unaware, Ignite Prolif basically just makes the stuff that you kill stay on the ground, and anything that walks over it, or walks near it, within a radius of 20 specifically, gets ignited. Barracks actually will spread ignites from those enemies. It's a subtle difference, but it's a huge functional difference. Who needs an Explodey Chest when you're the nuke? Exactly, right? Exactly. So, like, for reference, a radius of 64 is, like, more than a screen, I think. Unfortunately, we have Path of Building to look at. Let's see, where is it? Where are you, Area of Effect? There it is, radius. Yeah, so it, like, touches the top and bottom of the screen, basically. Not quite to the edges, the lateral edges, but 64 is huge. That is a lot of radius. And you could clearly invest more into that if you like. Especially now that the cluster jewels are kind of less effective for dot multiplier. I think that would be a reasonable thing to do. So yeah, Ignite is that's high on my list of things to try for sure. I've never made a Fireball igniter. I think that'd be kind of cool. So he built a discharger that went over 3 screens. Fuck. That's serious business, man. That is some serious ignition. Oh yeah, so the 0 survivability is a problem for me. That's that was definitely the biggest problem with this build, is it's a little bit of a glass cannon. Like you can see, even with like in-game gear, I had 5,000 life and basically no other you know, survivability traits. So 132% life is sort of a bummer. I had to rely pretty heavily on jewels to boost my life percentage, which I think all of these are. Yeah, they're all just 7% life jewels. The Vigil. Oh yeah, that's for Fortify. So I guess I did have Fortify, I forgot about that. But yeah, this build needing so many charges to maximize your damage definitely leaves you in a bit of an awkward spot. So, and I think I had Elusive. Yeah, I had Elusive. Which now, again, Elusive is really cool. That's a neat layer to have in your build. I kind of wonder if you could do an energy shield version of this, and if that would work better, especially now with all the new changes. I don't know. It'd be worth a thought, but still, like, you know, you kind of have to sprawl all over the freaking tree to get all these charges. And that makes ES buffs a little challenging. What was Ignite build where you ignite once and off-screen enemies die like 12 screens wide? Yeah, that was, I think you might be thinking of the, like, Aberrath's Hooves, like, Chaos Ignite thing, where you just, like, run around and ignite shit. If you have Barracks Respite or those, I think Aberrath's Hooves actually have the, like, Ignite spread to other enemies property as well. If you have those, then your Ignites spread all over the freaking place. But they changed the radius on that, so it's not quite as effective as just, like, chain igniting as it used to be. Which is a shame, but also probably not the worst thing in the world to make it, like, an auto kill for entire screens. But yeah, so yay Ignites. So Star Sector, back to that. Really cool game. So you can smuggle goods, you can be a, like, you know, straight up mercantile trader, you can be a bounty hunter. You can, like, one of the coolest aspects of this game actually is, like, ship management. So I just picked a random thing, and one of the things that the Nexarellan mod lets you do is choose your starting ship. So you can, I mean, no matter what you start with, it's all sort of crap. You know, it's like beginner stuff. But sometimes the beginning of the game is like by far the hardest, and you just have this like dinky ass terrible ship, and some pirates come and raid you and just kill you, and you have no recourse. So it's nice to start with some bigger stuff where you can at least punch back, without risk of just getting annihilated immediately. And I just chose this random ship. There's an option to start with like a super high-tech ship, but that's all you have. So if you're like really skilled at maneuvering stuff around, then you can do that. So each ship, gets a certain amount of points. Like this one has 50 ordnance points, and you can put weapons on them, or you can put mods on them that like affect their survivability. Like your shields are stronger, you can operate for longer, you have more flux, and flux is essentially like what you shoot stuff with, and it increases if your shields absorb damage. So you can just do all sorts of stuff, and there's other things like you can have auxiliary thrusters be faster, you can have bigger fuel tanks, you can have more crew, make your weapons have longer range, all sorts of different stuff. And combat itself is really involved, and you can pilot your own ship, you can make it go to autopilot, and just come what may. It's surprisingly complex for a sandbox game, actually, where that's like, in the grand scheme of things, combat is not like a huge part of what you do, but the combat itself is very involved, which I think is really cool. It leaves you a lot of options for like strategy and planning your attack and things like that. And again, like skill level actually factors into it. It's not just like a cerebral, kind of planning RPG game. So I'll show you. So this is the system that I'm in, like the solar system that I'm in. And then if you jump to hyperspace, you can see the whole map. So these are all the systems that you have to explore. And there's black holes, there's different sorts of stars, and like some of them will have planets that you can colonize, and you'll get sent on missions. I'll go fly around and you'll see what I mean. Dismiss. So if you fly around, when you like come near other settlements, they're like broadcasting missions and stuff that you could do. And this is like hyperspace storms, and they slow you down, and there's a whole bunch of different people flying around, and they'll interact with you, sometimes attack you and stuff. Nobody's offering any. There we go, this is what I was talking about. So they'll give you options to like go find stuff, basically, right? So you go up here and it says go look at this orbital habitat. So there's going to be like a basically a treasure chest, right? An orbital habitat is actually a really good one, where you can go up here and find stuff. So you investigate this habitat, and you get 20,000 credits, and like you complete that mission. So you can be an explorer, you can smuggle stuff, you can join in these convoys and whatnot, and like, oh, you know what? It just occurred to me. This music is not metal anymore. Therefore, I think I'm probably going to get muted. Oh well. Let's do that. Anyway, so yeah, there's tons of different options. This is like $15. You have to go to the dev site itself, which is I'll get it to you. It's fractalsoftworks.com. I am not sponsored by him in any way, because nobody would want me for a sponsorship anyway. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Fractal Softworks. So if you're interested in this game, I highly recommend it. And it's $15 out of your pocket. Not a big deal, regardless. So even if you try it and hate it, it's $15. But yeah, there's just so much different stuff to do. Really, really well done game. Tons of fun. Like, I'll show you what a colony looks like. So you can colonize planets. Let's let's see, I guess I have to get in here. So colony info. So colonies, you can build all this different stuff. You can make farming industries. You can mine. Military base is like a way for your colonies to defend themselves, basically. They can make their own like fleets that patrol and fly around. A star fortress is one of the many ways that you can make like an orbital station that also defends your colony. So like size affects how much demand it has for commodities and how much it produces. I mean, it's a really, really complex game, and there's like different planets produce different stuff. So here there's a lot of organic things and farmland, and apparently wildlife that eats you, and really shitty weather. So there's like all sorts of different stuff you can do. Like you can be a free port, which is essentially like increases your like throughput, like your how many people will come, and like affects the growth of your colony, but it also makes it like more dangerous, so you need more like drugs and shit like that, and if you take it away, then everybody gets really pissed off and leaves. Hazard pay makes like dangerous places more useful. And you can like do ground defenses that makes you more resistant to invasion and all that sort of stuff. It's really, really complex. It's super cool. So yeah, give this game a try. Totally recommend it. Oh, why did I save? No, whatever. Not gonna use that save anyway. Really, exit, yes. So yeah, that was a huge find for me. I love that game, and it's one thing that's nice about it is it's kind of like slow paced. Outside of combat, it's pretty slow paced, and I can play that at work, and you can just pause it anytime. Like even if you're in combat, you just pause the combat. This is an orbital station in battle with a whole bunch of different ships and stuff. These things are fucking hardcore. This is like a pretty highly upgraded one. So these are all the bullet hell that's going on here is fairly tough to get through unless you are similarly upgraded and bring a badass fleet against it. But yeah, again, super cool game. Totally recommend it. Cool. Oh man, I'm so excited. So excited about Path of Exile. Andreas, I'm glad you sort of pushed the discharge idea, because I might do that. I may well do a discharge igniter. Yeah, because that'll let me play around with some of the skills that I've never done. Like I've never done Flame Blast or Incinerate. Both of those would be kind of cool options, I think. I imagine this is probably going to be pretty meta. A lot of people are probably going to see that, 150% more damage, and like, their eyes bug out of their heads, and so all the stuff that's associated with Ignite's probably going to be pretty expensive, but it might not be the best idea to do, but we'll see. Cool. Well, gents, that was a short-ish stream, but I think I'm going to go and have some lunch before I pick up my kid. Thank you very much for watching. The Hellfather, if you are still around, I appreciate you watching, dude. Thank you for the raid. You guys are fantastic. I am MilkmanAl. I'm usually on Wednesdays and Sundays from 8 to 10. This next week, I will try to put out as much YouTube content as I possibly can. This video in particular will be edited down. So give me a shout there if you like. That will be a much easier way to digest all of the things that I've said about these builds. So, again, I'm MilkmanAl. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to, subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff. And I will catch you guys on Sunday. You are welcome for the stream, Cockroach Princess. Hopefully I get you addicted to some games that prevent you from doing your interview invites and your applications properly. That's my goal. Degeneracy and irresponsibility and procrastination. That's what we're all about here in the MilkmanAl stream. Alright guys, you have a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me. Take it easy. Good luck with everything. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Peace out.